Hey, I just wanted to get in contact as it has been a bit of a while since I have been posting. And initially, I wanted to be much more prolific than I had been. But I did have quite a lot of exciting events coming up. Um, but something happened recently, which is quite unfortunate. And of course, I'm still dealing with this now. But it definitely was something where it prompted me to begin speaking about my experiences with C-PTSD and looking at the symptoms that I have and also how it affects me in my day-to-day life. There is more that I want to expand on, but I don't feel that's something I can talk about right now. Hopefully, it can be something I can talk about quite soon. But without further ado, I suppose, I guess I'll start. So, first of all, I just wanted to sort of speak out and sort of speak about things that I notice have affected me first and foremost. So, the stuff that I had went through prior to my diagnosis was very severe anxiety, self-harm, suicidal feelings, isolation, and of course attempts as well as misusing alcohol and prescription medication as well. I found that when it came to my work, I would try to overcompensate to try and get more achievement to distract me from whatever was going on in my life, or whether it is in my life outside of work, it would be chasing after something that could serve as a distraction. So it would be excessive spending, it would be goodness, sorry. I say it because obviously there is quite a lot of stuff there, and I do feel like it's quite important to speak about as well. But yes, excessive spending, skin picking is a really bad one for me. Of course, I go through depressive episodes, so when that happens, I become the absolute reverse of how people see me and know me to have socialized, which means that I am very, very reclusive. I am pretty much confined to my bed. My appetite changes. My approach towards looking after myself as well definitely changes as well. And I become quite uncontactable as well. And this is something where it can be quite confusing, because one thing that I had learned through my experiences of counselling is that when you need to take time for yourself, to give yourself that permission, and that was something that I definitely needed to do, because I often found that I would mask my pain or try to work around it. And another thing also that kind of connects into that is also my relationship with people pleasing as well. So I, of course, would work when it sometimes wasn't appropriate for me to work, or sometimes I would encounter situations, where people might take advantage, or have taken advantage because of my boundaries. And one thing that I definitely find is there's different things. I can't speak for everyone that has C-PTSD. I can only speak for myself and my own experience. And of course, this is something that I'm still learning about, because it feels very unusual where you have a pattern in thinking and in actions for such a long period of time, and you assimilate that to be your personality. And once that's given a name or a diagnosis medically, it really gets hard at first to sort of differentiate what is personality to what is aspects of trauma. So, of course, I know that there is, of course, a combination of the two, but that's something that I do find quite difficult to assimilate within myself. So I kind of had to take a bit of a break there because one thing that I find is sometimes my mind can go blank. But that actually does also connect to C-PTSD. One of the symptoms I do find that I have is moments of brain fog and disassociation, where something can happen where I am being triggered, or something has come into my mind which is very triggering, or if I'm in an environment or a situation and I just disassociate from the world that I'm in, feeling I am like this complete void, if that makes sense. And in my own mind, it feels like I'm stuck in this freeze frame and the world is happening around me and it's happening in a blur, but I'm just stuck and I can't make myself part of that world. And it's something that happens quite frequently. You know, sometimes people can see that and sometimes people can't. I don't know if other people can relate to it that have similar sort of situations or have types of anxiety or depression. But I have learned to become very skilled at masking my pain so I can live a fully functional day-to-day life. But of course, sometimes that has its pros and sometimes that has its cons. Another thing that I notice that I do have is hypervigilance. Of course, yes, this connects to anxiety, but it's something that is, I would say, quite disorientating from what feels normal for me. So when I meet new people, it is very scary to trust. When it comes to my romantic relationships, it is very difficult to trust. Now, sometimes where I try to feel like those that don't have the trauma that I've been through is I will try to ignore what I perceive to be triggers, whether that is actually my boundaries or whether that is like me trying to ignore red flags going off in my own head. But also I can be very overcompensating in trying to do more for a person because I have a lot of guilt surrounding the triggers and how my mental health impacts me. Another thing that I've noticed with my hypervigilance is when it comes to trusting people within new romantic relationships or within friendships. Paranoia is a normal thing for me, but it means that I go above and beyond to try and nurse those emotions when they are coming up. So I can do things that might appear quite exaggerated or within a different context might appear quite toxic. But I do a lot to try and reassure myself or try to prove to myself or try to nurse, I suppose, my feelings of abandonment. And that's something that is still sort of there with me now. Now, the thing that I often deal with quite a lot is in part of my depressive episodes that I do experience is I feel this sense of the pain and trauma that I go through. It makes me feel abnormal from the rest of society, and with having the self-awareness of the stuff that is triggers, the stuff that is traumatic, and the ways in which I need to heal from issues going on and so on, is it makes me feel like I am inept to functioning like a person that does not have C-PTSD or other mental illnesses, like as a normal person in society. And that is something that I do find quite difficult and quite be disabling mentally within my own head. And another sort of feeling I also have with my depressive episodes is that it kind of feels like everything can be a trigger. Not every little thing, but every negative event can trigger me. And that's really hard, because it feels like where ordinary people might have a way that they can deal with their problems, whether it's through catching up with their friends or having a laugh, having a treat, having a glass of wine or so on, for me it can send me straight into a depressive low. And through counselling, I know that of course there is this power to heal and overcome the emotional aspects of pain, but then there is this sense of frustration in feeling like that when I heal from pain, there will still be that affiliation to it, where it's like when you survive trauma, it still sort of feels like it has an impact, because I can't really explain it very well, but it kind of feels like it still has quite an impact in your day-to-day life, because it's like it still has an attachment. You don't ever forget. You don't ever feel that moment where it's non-painful or so on. And then sometimes it feels like the more you survive, the more stuff where you kind of feel like there is, where you just feel like your life is never destined to be happy. And sometimes when you survive the suicidal attempts, that you survive the depressive episodes, there is still those feelings of I'm sorry, I do hate my mind's going blank, but it does kind of feel like never I can't remember it to articulate it like how it truly deserves, but it's on my mind anyway, is that I never truly get to move forward, or the weight of living with all that pain still takes its toll, and it's a weight that I often feel like I don't want to deal with. So I'm sort of going to keep it like that for now. I know it feels like a bit of a anticlimactic way to finish. Part of it is because I want to elaborate and expand, which I'm sure I will. I think it will be important for how I work as an artist and how I work for my own healing to elaborate. But at the moment, I genuinely do not feel that it's appropriate. So when that time is right, I will obviously do a part 2 to this, and I hope it resonates, and I hope that it can help someone out. So thank you very much, and hope to see you again soon.